Hello degenerates and welcome back to another Smash Ultimate video, or kind of just a general video if in any case, but today we're going to be talking about a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, and that is going to be on the topic of commentary. So I know a lot of you guys are more new to my channel, not like a recent or a long time sub on here, or just kept up with me like ever since I've really got it into the scene. But for those of you who do not know, I am actually like the main commentator of my region, and that region is actually Central Florida, or CFL, as you've probably heard it over numerous different posts that are out there, because we've been involved in quite a lot of things. And considering that it's been a while since I've talked about this, the last time I talked about commentary was in 2019 when events were going fairly strong for the most part. It was a different landscape than what we're going to be going into. And considering that, the pandemic is going on at the current moment, I think this is honestly the best time to be talking about commentary. So basically, what is commentary? Commentary is obviously when you're talking about the game and you're going to be informing the viewer about the things that are going on, and you're also there to provide entertainment as well. Basically, if you've ever watched something without commentary versus watching it with something, if you're watching like a top 8 tournament or something like that, if there's no commentary when you're watching it, it will feel like there's something naturally missing there. It's just kind of ingrained into the viewer experience whenever you're watching like any types of sports out there. All the highlights that you see out there just wouldn't be the same if you did not hear those voices when those moments happen. And generally speaking, the commentator's line is going to be what solidifies that moment for the rest of history, like something like, Wombo Combo, which, that's even found its way to League of Legends. So what I want to talk about here is things that you can do to help break into it, versus in like improving at commentary or just like getting into the topic of just doing it, as well as what you should probably be looking for if you're looking to do this at actual events themselves. So the first thing is I should probably talk about my background and how I even got into it, because I think that's kind of a good way to relate this whole thing. So with me, I never had the intention of going fully in with commentary. It was something that just sort of naturally happened. Basically, I wasn't too involved with the scene when I first got here, when I first got to college. Basically, I would go there, I would go to the weekly, I would play my matches, and when I was like knocked out of bracket, I would leave. Didn't really have like too many friends there, didn't really feel like I had too much of a reason. I would get there early enough, do my practice then just go home and leave and just hang out, eat and whatnot. But eventually I started just watching more. I really liked, hearing the voices on there. And, we had 2 good commentators at the time that would get on the mic. However, that was basically at the very end. The rest of it was, to be quite frank, pretty awful for the most part. We did have like some other people that would occasionally show up and do some good work on there, but like it was never like we consistently had good commentary at the weekly itself. So once I kind of like became more aware of that after I'd get knocked out of bracket, I would just hop on the mic, be like, hey, is it all right if I got on? And then sure enough, I was just doing it regularly. And then, we had a whole Facebook page dedicated to the casters that would work there, because there was one point where we wanted to get things more official and whatnot. And I remember, people said I was good. And then there was like a commentary tier list that the main leader made, which was Schrader. He was known as Stolback at the time, and he put me in the S tier, and I thought that was like one of the weirdest things out there, because it was like I just started doing this and people just thought I was good. It was nothing like I ever really had like serious practice for or anything like that. It's just like I just did what I felt was like natural, and I felt like I brought to the table what I wanted to do, and I would try my best to work off of whoever I was casting with. Because in general, commentary is always going to be like a 2-man show. You're going to have yourself, and then you're going to have the person that you're bouncing off of. and there's going to be like different roles that you will fulfill. If you want a really good video that kind of explains more commentary situations in relation to esports, I do highly recommend checking out the Core gaming video on this, which I'll link it to the card right now. There they kind of talk more about like the more basics and nuances of commentary, which I'll touch upon here, but I think he kind of does a good enough job to kind of lay that stuff out. So whatever my goal was there was to mostly focus more on the educational aspect of commentary. When most people hear me, and as you guys will probably have experienced throughout the course of my videos, if you are longtime subs, is that I generally have like a more quiet demeanor, very, very calming, and I try to just bring as much nuance to all of the different actions that are taking place as much as I probably can. Though if you have watched me also at like bigger tournaments or just even regular ones, like if something like crazy or insane does happen, I will raise my energy level to that and like really talk about it. Nor am I really shy about just completely ducking on somebody if they've done something absolutely terrible. Because like to me, I feel like kind of like just bringing that cold, harsh truthness to what I am currently like perceiving on the screen in front of me is kind of just like the hallmark of what I like to do, and I feel like that's kind of authentic to myself. And with that said, I also have to acknowledge what my partner is also going to bring on the mic as well. So making sure that you give them ample time, try to not cut them off. And if they have like a habit of talking over you, just, give them like a light tap or something like that, like sort of like a visual cue. Figuring out the right push and pull that you need to give with each individual caster is something that you just kind of will have to learn naturally and whatnot. And like really, you're only going to gain exposure by just getting on the mic and doing it yourself. Whenever somebody like talks over another caster, like way too often, or they do it like literally nonstop and cannot stop doing it, everybody that is watching that video is going to be able to tell. Two of the biggest perpetrators of this, one of them is a completely redacted name. But I will just say it was, I just realized the two ways that I could refer to them are both redacted people. But I'll just say it like, there was, actually no. Okay. So these are two names that I can say. So HBox, when I first commentated with him, I don't know if he's gotten better about it, because the last time I commentated with him was probably in 2018, so he might have gone better. HBox was pretty consistent with talking over you, and it was always kind of weird. I think I commentated with him twice at a weekly. Whenever you would commentate with him, from my experience, it was kind of like he wasn't talking to you. It's very strange. It's kind of like he has his own script in his head and he's just kind of going off of that. That's really the only way I can describe it. It's very weird. And then the other person was Esam. Esam I commentated with at some monthlies that we had back in South Florida during the Smash 4 days. That was the TGL Trial Gaming League that took place in a casino, which it's sad those weeklies are gone. Those monthlies are gone. They were really nice. But yeah, basically he sees a lot of things happen on screen and he wants to talk about it. And generally speaking, he would give like very good knowledge on it. But like, I think it just kind of comes from him coming from like a more streaming background, that if you see something happen, you want to fill the dead air and you want to do it. And like, even if you are talking, it's just that the second he sees it, Lizard Brain just goes, I got to say something right then and there. But some people's personalities are just naturally wired like that. So the only way you can really help is just kind of by pointing it out and going from there. Again, that was a very long time ago. Don't know if he's gotten better about it now. I haven't personally commentated with him. Nor has he really, I don't think he's really even commentated much events in Ultimate either. That is kind of something that I have noticed, is that there are not as many like top players commentating. That was kind of becoming a bigger thing towards the end of Smash 4. But we did see like some of that happen with like some retired players going into Smash Ultimate. And I know like with Ultimate, we do have like two players that are doing it a lot more. Hungrybox obviously is the one that most people would point to. Another one was DeBuzz, but DeBuzz is definitely focused more on playing the game rather than commentating. However, he does try to commentate whenever he feels like he has the time to. Don't remember which events in Ultimate that happened at. I want to say both of those were with Smash and Splash, the latest one that happened. But yeah, um, definitely those are just some things that you do have to be aware about. Um, so yeah, basically, as far as my story is concerned, with how I got into commentary, just started doing it at my weekly. The people that were at my weekly ended up working at some of the bigger events too. Particularly CEO, which is like our only real major that we have here. And then, of course, the monthlies that would be hosted by the group that would host our weeklies too, which those were never really major events. It was just upscaled weeklies that happened to take place at a go kart track. And that was really it. But with all of that, I had a lot of footage to gather. So if I did apply to bigger events, I could compile entire commentary reels for that, which is something that's important that you need to do. And you'd submit your reels to these larger events. And I will tell you from my experience, they will have an impact on if you'll get it. However, they are not going to be the main thing that determines if you get it or not. It's just it's think about it like a degree. It's just kind of a requirement that you should probably have one, unless you're too big of a name where you really don't need it. Um, However, will never hurt to have it. So definitely, when you go into it, what you want to do is go to all of your weeklies, go to all the events that you can go to that aren't going to be too much of an expense to you, and just so you can get practice and gather footage. Those are like two big things that you need. And then from there, I did work the majors. So at first, mostly as a caster. But then, I eventually became trusted enough that I would help assist with selecting people for it. So I was the person that would go through applications and then I would give my recommendation. However, I did not have final say on who the lineup was. The only time that I could have a say on who would be where is if, something happened there on site where I had to change things. But then the first one, it was like 2018. I helped with it. 2019, I basically selected most of them, but there were some altercations that did change things based on people that were sort of have good ins, and they were basically promised a slot. So that's going to be the next thing I'm going to talk about is networking. So I'm kind of weird in that I didn't really network much, and that's also definitely drastically hurt me in the amount of opportunities that I've been able to have. Pretty much, I did get my gigs in Florida just because I knew the people, and then I was eventually running them. So naturally, I got gigs through that. I was basically I basically worked with the people that would employ them, and then I also kind of became the person that was employing others, and that's how I got into those things. So in a way, it is kind of like I networked through myself for that, and with all the other ones that I applied to, basically I think I've been rejected from outside of one. There was one where I didn't. Every single major regional that I applied to that was outside of Florida, I didn't get into. The only exception was SER, which was SoCal Regional. And the reason for that one, I know that I got accepted was, I do have a repertoire, and that one focused specifically on the retro characters. And I have worked a lot with 2GG in the past to do a lot of the donation drives there. So they knew my relation with Rido and everything. So they knew that to commentate over those characters, I'd basically be a natural fit for all of those. So I had a lot of things going for me on that one. But generally speaking, the only way that you're going to be getting around is if you network and talk with people that are from all these different regions. You need to put yourself out there. You need to be completely shameless with it too. If you're an introverted person like me, that is not the easiest thing to do at all. But you literally will not get jobs if you don't do that. I would say the great majority of the people that are getting into most of these majors, because I don't, truth be told, I don't know exactly what their whole hiring process is. I know certain ones, I believe the Big House is all invite only, so you can literally only commentate that one if you know exactly the people that are hiring for that one, where most applications will still have a general thing. but generally speaking, you're going to be pretty low on the list unless you know them specifically. Which was kind of one of the cool things about handling CEO when it was just like me by myself doing it, was that I did basically want to break it down to, I want to focus like solely on the applications that are on there, and then also how would they fit into the budget. So the reason why like knowing people is going to be important is that's going to determine what your budget's going to be in terms of like how important that you are and just like how easily you can be accommodated. Because like, let's say, okay, I don't have to worry about room and board. Okay, that's one expense that they don't have to worry about. But like, if you need to go there, you need flight and you need room and board, and the tournament has to provide it for you. Tournaments don't have a lot of money to work with. So those are always going to be points that are going to detract from you unless like you're the very, very, very top. And also that will give you more incentives to hire people that are within region to help commentate your event itself. So keep that in mind. Get to know the people in your local, so then that way you will have that connection there too. So it's like, you do have to think about like applying to these things in like various different levels, like economically, your status, and then the people. Those are kind of always going to be like the three things that are going to determine whether you can get into the majors. But weeklies, just show up and they'll probably let you on unless they hate you. Because if they hate you and you provide bad content, yeah, they're not going to want you. But if you are good on the mic and everything, and you're not terrible person, they'll let you on. Just because most places don't really have enough commentators there. And, most people watching most weeklies are probably going to mute it because a lot of regions just do not have good commentators at their weekly. Or if they do have commentators in their region, they don't get to make it out to their weekly as much because you're not making money off of commentary. I guess that should bring me to another point. Don't expect to make money off of this. If we took like every single commentary gig that I have done, I would definitely say I have probably gone negative. Or maybe not, because like I did get to a point where it's like I did get paid for doing commentary on my weeklies, and like I could literally just like walk over there. But then I got to a point where it's like I had to start driving, so basically it covered my gas at a certain point. And considering that I am not like a high status commentator, for doing like 2 blocks, it's like 2 hours each, and you're basically doing 4 hours there. It's like, I'd make about like $80. And then the other thing that you can kind of factor into it is the fact that I didn't have to pay for an entry badge in order to go in there. So you can kind of factor those things. And that's basically what that's what you can expect to get paid when you're first getting into it and you get to start doing majors. But, there's a lot of weeklies. They can't afford to really pay their commentators, though, I wish they could, but sometimes it's realistically just not in their budget that they're able to do that. And there's going to be a lot of times where, you probably might have like a lot of unpaid gigs at first too. And, it sucks. Like realistically, like if you have to worry about money and you can choose going to this or making money, like make sure you have a safety net before like you realistically start doing this, because it's like you're going to get like a lot of just like unpaid labor before you can really realistically make something off of it. The other thing too is like you need to make sure you expand your social media presence. So like if they are doing like contest like help get you into something, if you have like a good social media presence, then you can get your fans to help like elevate you and boost you up to hopefully commentate events like that. And also that kind of gives you more saying power. It's like, hey, if I commentate your event, I can bring this many faces to your event as well, which at least like viewers to your event as well, which that's also important too. More views means more ad revenue and all these other things, more brand awareness. So that's always going to be a very important aspect. And also, your fans are probably going to be the ones that are going to be supporting you the most directly if you decide to take like commentaries of full time. Because like, off of Twitch, and if you happen to have a merch line, those are probably going to be the way that you're going to make like 90% of your money, unless like you're able to get gig after gig after gig, which of course in our current state with the pandemic going on, yeah, it's not happening. So you might be wondering, with all of that happening right now, why am I talking about commentary with the fact that people can't go to events? Well, because you don't have to go to events, and depending on what your whole work situation is, you probably have a lot more time than you used to. Obviously, depending on what you are doing. This is the best time to prepare and just get ready for it. So, commentary is going to rely a lot on your knowledge of the game itself, and there's no better time to study than when you have free time. So, right now, with like everything that people are just labbing out on their own, and just like with people just having more time to like kind of focus on the game itself, you can go back, you can watch VODs of old tournament sets, kind of learn more history, learn how characters are played, and even like learn the characters yourselves. Because like if you are able to play with somebody that you have a good connection with, then you can actually get a lot of really decent training out of that. Just make sure you have the LAN adapter and they're not too far away from you. And that's going to be your most optimal settings for just like good, consistent practice while the pandemic is going on. Learn as much as you can about the characters, just in case they do happen to be. Sometimes they're bad, but you can go into like character Discord servers and ask more about the characters there, so you can kind of learn more about the nuances of them. So that way, if you are on the mic and like people always complain about like, oh, like in Smash 4, it's like always people complain about the way the commentator shulk because they never knew what they were talking about. In my case, Duck Hunt, nobody ever knows what they're talking about. They still won't know what they're talking about. You can do your best to educate yourself. So then that way, when you are commentating these more obscure characters, you can talk about them better, and it will just like kind of elevate you there. The other thing too is you do have a whole history of VODs that you can go over. Watch these other commentators, see what you like about them, see what you don't like. Feel like ask yourself, what can you add to these things that these people just straight up will never add? What can you bring that only you can bring? That's always going to be like one of the most important things, because like you will hear those people that like try to emulate the hype casters, so like the ones that you always hear in those highlights. And when they do it, it's normally excessively painful how forced it is every single time. If you want to hear like the best, like, EE, TK, Coney, Hazmat, Vicky Kitty, Rod, Korean, they're all really good at like more specific things at what they do. And generally speaking, they're not going to be able to cover everything just because they're not a caster that's meant to cover everything. Like the person that's best at doing the most broad and general thing in the entire world would definitely be Vicky Kitty, and that's like I think the main reason why like she's like one of the best reps that you can have for something like the Nintendo tournaments or just like any of like the big things like Evo, just because you're gonna have such a big wide audience watching these things, and they're not gonna understand like the more nuances with the game itself, just like like technical terms like DI, knockback, like shuffle, things like that. Like things that like most people are like people that are watching competitive Smash for the first time are gonna be completely confused about. Vicky Kitty's always been like one of the best commentators at like talking about the broad general concepts of Smash and making it extremely easy to understand for a general audience. And like if you do ask her about the game, she does have like really really in-depth knowledge. She's always had like one of the most like in-depth just like documents prepared in order for just going into like tournaments. Like I remember I think like the most I really interacted with her was at CEO Daytona, and like I remember like she like had like her whole thing with like matchup spreads. It was like player matchup spreads specifically, like how often like they won and lost against a player. I remember like Hazmat did things like that as well, and a lot of more facts about like characters as well that may not be more as well known. Like I remember I think she had like something on like Mega Man, like a more obscure character, but she does have a good Mega Man player in her region with Morpheus there. And it's like the work and dedication like that which will really help set you apart and make sure that you know what you're talking about when you are going into these events and talking about these things. And if no one's complaining, that means you did your job. Because when you get to a certain point, like no one's ever going to pat you on the back and say you did really good unless you said something really funny or memorable, and they'll just talk about that funny line, and that's mostly it. If you do your job properly, you're just going to have no complaints, and that's really all you can ask for. You really can't ask for like any praise or anything like that. Like, I bet you most of you watching had no idea that I was commentating like a lot of these things in the past. You just know me as the guy that talked about Duck Hunt and did all these guides and whatnot. Like honestly, like my most notable set that you'll probably find from me commentating in Ultimate is actually over in Japan. If you guys didn't know, there was a big tournament over there. It's one of the Umaburas where Brood happened to get second place, and this was before Banjo was released because he's a Banjo main now. But at the time he was maining Piranha Plant, and a Piranha Plant at an A-tier PGR event got second place. He was on winner's side of grand finals, but he lost twice, I think, to Kameme. Oh. So if you go back and you watch the English VODs of those, you'll actually hear my voice on there. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I just haven't been as active in the commentary scene with Smash Ultimate as I was back at Smash 4. Smash 4 I was kind of everywhere. But with Ultimate, I just haven't had as much availability to go to weeklies as much, and I'm also working. I was working full time as well. So I don't remember where I was going with that tangent, but yeah, make sure you're prepared for these things, and make sure you get your brand awareness out there, because otherwise, you're just going to be kind of forgotten and not talked about much. I was going to say, so if you look at old commentary threads for CEO and all that, we would ask people on Reddit where you would actually get some pretty good constructive criticism on there, but sometimes you just get the normal just trolls on there. And on all of those threads, there was either no comments for me or there's just one comment for me, because I would do pools, because not too many people unfortunately watch pools. So you can put those big events on there, but not too many people are going to really watch you and know what you did. And I remember there's one person who's he had really in-depth knowledge about that kind. And I'm like, yeah, thank you. Because that's mostly what I'd bring. I'd always try to make sure that I was commentating the Raito sets so people wouldn't actually know what's going on. And in a couple of the Smash 4 ones, because there's just one whole big time where I traveled with him a lot, where if you watch certain sets, you'll hear me say some things, because the other there's a couple of other top commentators that know me, Hazmat, Vicky. Those are the two main ones that know me. So if they want some duck hunt things, I will go on, say that, and then leave. So that way it's they can look for those things when those matches are going on. But yeah, so that is kind of going to bring me to my current point on what can you do now. We were talking about that in studying up for the game. The other thing too is, there are a lot of online events happening. So if you are signed up for those, see if you can join them on a Discord call and actually help commentate these things. Because that's going to be one way to practice. You're not going to have a lot of viewers, so don't expect to gain much from that. And the big ones that are happening, they probably have their commentator set already. The Quarantine Series. Quarantine Series gets a lot of really good, well-known commentators for that. So I don't think you're going to break into those. But, there's just a lot of small 15, 20 person ones that are going on. And you're probably going to see a lot of weird matchups going on in there, because people are playing funky characters right now. So with that, you can kind of learn more about that, kind of see some jank that if you see that jank now, then you might be better prepared to talk about that jank if it happens later on, if you're commentating a real event or something like that. Putting your face out there is not going to hurt you unless you say some very sus things. So, practice your stuff, learn what sticks, learn what doesn't. It can hurt to look through Twitch chat. But, if there's general things and if it's hopefully more constructive and all that stuff, then they can really help you point these things out and learn how you want to craft it, and learn, if you have a specific message you want to say and it's really not getting out there to your audience when you're saying these things, then try to figure out why that is. The other thing too is, get feedback. So if you happen to know any commentators at all that you think are really good, send them your VODs, see if they'll help critique it. If you send me commentary VODs, I will look at them and I will try to help you improve as much as you can on those. Just so that way, you can get feedback on those. Unfortunately, there was a commentary Discord, but it's completely dead at this point, so I don't even think it's worth linking. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those people that are in there might be a couple that have had to leave within this time period. But I think that just trying to get in touch with these people. You can always get in touch with me. Feel free to tell me in the comments, or reach out to me on Twitter or Discord, and I would be more than happy to look at these things for you, because it's honestly something I haven't done too much recently. The other thing too is like, with all these things getting on there, work on your social media presence, see what's working with people and what's not working with people. Since there is a lot of uncertainty with events, reach out to event organizers that still haven't been canceled. They're like, hey, I'd be interested in doing this and whatnot. Is there any processes? Well, if they just say flat out, no, we're not doing anything because we have no idea what's happening, don't take it to heart. But the fact that you have made that connection with them is good, because then that way you might be remembered in some way. As long as it was a positive thing, then that's good. You need to reach out to these people just so you kind of have an in with them, and you can kind of learn more people to talk to throughout it. And when you do get that whole network in there, then that's literally the best thing that you can set up yourself for success when getting into commentary. So I actually did talk about commentary back in 2019, and I did have this whole document, and I decided to update it a little bit. So we're gonna go take a look at this and kind of go over these general topics. Okay, so we did talk about the landscape. So with things that are going on right now, when offline events do come back, everything is going to be a brand new, fresh start. People have been feeding to play offline again. Some places have been doing it, but a lot of areas just haven't been doing it because it's just not safe to do so. And, it's going to bring out a lot of talent because, people want to play this game. We really do. It's just that online can be very rough, but offline, it's going to feel good again. You're going to get all the solvency montages again, too. I guarantee it. So, you're going to have a lot of people watching these things, and it's going to bring out a lot of talent. So it's going to be a good time to get into commentary when these things are going off, or when everything's starting again. And the fact that there is a lot more openings now that we've had to out a lot of just really bad people within our community, and that is actually going to have an effect on openings for more high profile things. Now, if you guys are just starting off, you're not going to get those. There's plenty of high profile commentators that are still within our scene, and I'll point them out very quick when we get to them. The other thing too is we still have 5 more DLC characters coming, so that's going to always have a lot of interest with them. Every single time a new character drops, that brings in, new players, and that brings in new views. So there is going to be a lot of interest with this game, at least until next year, guaranteed, with no matter what happens. But if you are looking to actually make a career out of this, there are going to be a couple of things that are going to stifle you when you are trying to get on schedules. So basically, there is kind of just a set commentators that are at the top, and they're basically always going to get those top 8 spots at the majors, specifically the majors. Regionals is a different story. So the main ones it's not anymore. I had to get rid of some names, but you got your EE, TK, Coney, Vicky, Rod, Hazmat, Korean. Basically, if they're going to your event that you're interested in going to, expect them to have a spot within top 16. They're just kind of guaranteed to have it. And the other issue that you're going to be facing now is with the fact that top players are joining. Don't know how much that's going to change when things get back, because a lot of them may just want to play and not do commentary. But I think there's going to be a point in time where they are going to get back into the mix. So the main reason why people will choose top players is, first of all, because of their media presence. They're guaranteed going to bring a lot of views by them being on the mic. And the other thing, too, is they do have a lot of game knowledge, and they can bring really unique perspectives to a lot of these matches that a lot of people may not be able to bring, and even commentators too. It's just their understanding of playing within these pressure situations and things to look out for will be different than what a lot of people have done. But then again, they are not seasoned commentators. Some top players are good at doing this, but there are others that will just either bore you to death or just cannot just get on the mic and do things properly at all. It's definitely something that we've seen happen a lot. But we do have some really good top players that are good at doing this. And the other thing too that incentivizes events to choose top players is they're not expensive. They'll generally do it for free. They'll get on there. They'll get their free PR. They get footage for themselves. They can put it in a highlight reel or a montage or something like that, and they'll just naturally make money off of all that. And they might make money off of doing well at the tournament too. So that is not their concern, and that is the reason why they might be put on a schedule over you. So, other difficulty you'll have. So, is it worth getting into? Probably something I should have talked about earlier. Well, it really depends on who you are. So, for yes, if you genuinely enjoy talking about this game and all the nuances and learning just new viewpoints and differing opinions and all that, and just observing the game in general, absolutely do it. When you're getting into it, I would say you should expect to pretty much do locals and regionals and not much else beyond that unless you have a very high profile major that takes place within your own region. But otherwise, yeah, you're going to be doing mostly just that unless you work like crazy to network your way around the entirety of the scene. Now, for the nose. If you want to make a full-time career out of doing commentary by itself, you are going to starve to death and have no health insurance. Don't do that. You always got to make sure that you have like another job on hand, and you just got to work on your Twitch. Like that's really the only way that you can do this full-time. You need good financial backing. You are going to go negative for a very, very long time. Make sure you know what reward programs to use. So like for travel, like, Expedia, or find an airline that you really like, use them. So then that way you can just get the best deals possible whenever you're traveling. And also like with hotels too, that will help if you plan to travel out a lot. So definitely doing that, making a decent living off of it. Just like the percentage of people that make a good living off of this is very extremely small. And even the people that are doing fine, it's like because they got like a sponsor or something like that. And even if they are doing fine, they might be doing something like 30,000, like nothing too crazy that you couldn't do on your own off of just doing like a like a regular service job that pays decently. And if you do not want to have a social media presence and just display yourself out there, yeah, don't even bother. Just like don't even bother with this as like a like even as an option if you are not comfortable with doing that. And especially if you feel like you need to put up like a face or a persona in order to do this. Well, not a persona, just like something that is not you for doing this. Like I think that could just lead to a lot of like toxic and unhealthy things for yourself as well. So that I would say no for that too. Like that's honestly very important. And I think it's something that's kind of hard to talk about, but definitely for sure. You just don't want to end up becoming a toxic individual just because you want to do this. So, what does it take to break in? I've talked about this like endlessly already, but some bullet points. So, make sure you're decent at the game. Make sure you can actually play this game. Make sure you can actually understand it. Like why characters do things and what you need to be looking for. You need to understand the mechanics. And the other thing too is, you should be able to watch a high level match and you should be able to predict what actions that they're going to do. And that's going to help you talk about all these situations a lot more. Like I do think that's something that you should do. Like learn to get into the mindset of a top player, so that way you can fully convey what's going on screen. And I think that's a very valuable thing to have. Like if you're watching it and like you're watching a Mars set and you're like, okay, I think he's going to down B here to escape the situation. If he does that, then that means, okay, you're understanding their mentality and what they're doing these things. Maybe it may not be exactly what they're thinking, but if you can explain it and understand it in a way that makes sense to you, then that's good enough. You also need to be social, as mentioned. You need to network like crazy. You need to talk to people. Otherwise, you are not getting jobs. You need to be active on social media so that way people know about you, and that way you have more leverage when you're applying for all these different positions. And it's basically the only way that you're going to be making money. Because like if you do have brand awareness and you have a presence, you can get sponsorships that way. So work on that. And, with that social media, that does work. That does play off of building a brand for being social. So have that, know the way to market yourself. And honestly, if you can build yourself a brand in this, then you can build yourself as a brand when you're applying to jobs too. Just a very good social skill to have in general when you just are looking for things within a career. And you need to be persistent. You are not going to get a home run off the bat. You are probably going to be terrible when you're first attempting commentary too, unless like you are just a natural at speaking. It's something that most people have to work on. There's a lot of like social anxieties that you need to get over in order to do this properly. And you just may not have the correct method to convey information in the way that is required for commentary, because like you might be good at like doing things like in an essay or just like having a lot of time to explain these things, but in commentary things are happening like crazy. They're happening really fast and you are not going to have a lot of time to explain these things. So you have to learn how to do it quick. Learn when you can like get those longer explanations out. Like generally there are going to be slow periods in the match where not too much is happening, where you can expand upon like previous information you're talking about, and you have to learn how to like kind of ingrain that into just an audience's mind whenever you're doing these things. like if you watch a lot of my streams when I'm doing the matchup critiques, you'll kind of notice when like I point out things and I say, okay, pay attention to this, think about how many times this is happening, and I'll point it out every single time it happens. And like that's a really easy good way to just like kind of connect with your viewers and like help them digest the information that you're like kind of spewing to them. um and the other thing with being persistent is like, if you're the first person that comes into mind for a specific job or like specific like thing that they want you to do, then that means you've won. Like you want to be the person that people think of when they want you on the mic, just because that will help you just get like a lot more on there. And honestly, it's not going to happen off of just doing one job. You need to be persistent. You need to be within like the social conscience of people. Otherwise you're going to fade off. Like my whole career with commentary is exactly that. Like, I don't think I was never known. I was never like a big name or anything like that. But like within my own region, not as many people know me anymore because I didn't go out to as much. And, people probably had no idea who I was when they heard me over on the mic at Umabura, and all those other things. So it's like, if you're not persistent, you're going to fall out of favor and people are just not going to know who you are. And it's going to hurt your chances to do things in the future. You need to be persistent. You need to be consistent with it. You need to be making your content, and you need to be understanding this game. And that's really what it takes to just be a decent commentator, not just for Smash, but just in general. Like that's just going to be the way it works. And honestly, I will say there's one other thing I should mention about is it worth getting into, is that if you like want to develop like career skills and just like ways to go out there and like help network and get jobs and all that stuff, you are doing that here, and that is all the skills that you're going to gain from this are going to transfer over to other professions. So like when you're on the mic, that's going to help you out with presentations or doing like public speeches and all that, which that is a very positive trait to have for a job. There's a lot of people that are just terrible at communications, and there's a lot of things that you're not going to put those people in. You want to be the person that can fulfill those roles. Networking and having a brand when you're applying to jobs, that is going to be a very important thing. And when you're within a job and you have to do like a lot of like contracts and stuff like that, because let's say you're a project manager or something like that, this is going to be a good way to build that skill and how to build repertoire so you know how to do that with individuals or just companies in general. Definitely something that you want to do. And being able to understand a more nuanced way on doing this, if you're analyzing anything like in a business, being able to break down things at individual layers is going to help you out with that. So it's like all the skills that it takes to be a good commentator is going to be something that you're going to apply to just literally every single aspect in life. So if you take it as like a personal growth tool, commentary is a great thing to get into. It's just not a good career to make money off of. That's what it boils down to. So either way, this was a long ranty video, and unfortunately, I have not been able to get all the critiques from the previous stream up online. It was kind of weird. When I was recording the previous critiques, some of them just cut off halfway, and they just stopped recording, so I had to re-record. So definitely Quadfather, gonna reach out to you and the other person, which I forgot their name. I'm going to make sure to see if they want it. If they do, then I'll just make sure to upload those. If not, you can still head over to Twitch, and the VOD is still there. So if you did miss those critiques, you can go back and watch those. So you're either going to see more critiques, or you're going to see kind of like more videos like this, just talking about different aspects of my life or just different things I want to talk about for the rest of this week, because I want to keep up with the daily uploads, because that's how I'm working on YouTube. Just doing that, getting more views, just kind of pushing the flow out there more, and just kind of seeing how it works out. So with that said, I hope you guys found this video helpful. I hope you found it insightful. Let me know if you want me to talk more about commentary, more tips on that. Be delighted to do that. And if you want me to do commentary critiques on those match critique days, be very delighted to do that as well. So with that said, that's everything that I have for you guys today. And with all that said, take care of yourselves until the next one.